So welcome to this episode of Menopause Conversations. And although my guest here has not got the menopause, certainly he has got some smarts and insights that will be hugely useful. And if you aren't menopausal, sleep is important to you. So I'd like to welcome my next guest, which is Nick Littlehales. Hello, Nick. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and very much looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being here. Let me give you your introduction, shall I? So Nick is actually a sports sleep coach, which is amazing. You know, we're only just discovering how important and vital sleep is. You were international sales and marketing director at Slumberland, and then you found yourself at the dizzy heights of football, being involved with Sir Alex Ferguson and that dream team of '92, playing football. So without further ado, Nick Littlehales, welcome. Tell us all about you and sleep. I mean, how does someone go from being involved in terms of the world of sleep and actually taking that into football? How does that happen? Tell us your story.
Purely by fate, accidental sets of circumstances, a particular sort of drive to, look at things differently throughout my career. So I started off trying to be a sports person when I was young. I fell into the sleep industry, starting a family and everything else. I got sort of shot through the ranks at the company called Slumberland to be their international sales and marketing director. There was no sleep council anywhere in the UK, so we collaborated to set one up, and I was the chairman of that. Been around a lot of professors of sleep, clinical side, doing lots of things in all sorts of ways. I'm not academic or clinical in the area, but I just found myself in that space. I think a little bit of a midlife crisis, as most people do in their 40s, shifting from one period to another in their life on this planet, and just thought, everybody takes sleep for granted. It's not a performance criteria. We know how important it is, but it really is a health pillar tagged on the end of the other most important ones. And so I just happened to be sitting in my office in the northwest of the UK, in Oldham, Manchester, twiddling my thumbs, working out my 12-month contract as a director to go off and do something different. One thing led to another. I ended up speaking with Sir Alex Ferguson, the football club down the road in Manchester United. One thing led to another, and a couple of decades later, the media gave me the title of sports sleep coach. I didn't, because they were intrigued about what I was doing with all these fancy footballers and things. But since then, I've wandered off into pretty much every sport internationally, every age group, gender, whatever it might be, because we all sleep and we've all been ignoring it. And I got asked to write a book in 2015 by Penguin Random House. There it is. That was a bit overwhelming, I can tell you, because I didn't set out to write a book and to put your head above the parapet and do all that sort of stuff. So, but since then, I've been very much working on both sides of the fence. Elite sport is always my focus, but pilots, nurses, menopausal women, doctors, children, parents, students, you name it, have all been knocking on the door going, help, can we try to find a new way of approaching sleep and recovery, simply because we're just putting ourselves under so much pressure as humans. It was bound to crack at some point. So that's where I find myself today.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing because sleep, I mean, I'm a real neuroscience geek, and I love, the 3-pound of muscle in our head is totally reliant on sleep. It cannot just keep going. And when you read the foreword in your book, the introduction in your book, it's really fascinating. That in itself is a seminal piece of work, because it's all about what changed. And what changed is the advent of the internet, the 24-hour working day, 7 days a week. And, sleep became less of a priority, whereas before we would wake up with the birds singing and go to sleep with the sun setting. Those days are long gone, and so only a matter of time before this epidemic around sleep would to appear. So it's amazing. But so when you talk about elite sports coach, I mean, how is that different? I mean, just as a definition in your mind, how is that different as a definition to sports coach? What is the difference?
A coach has to find a way of getting somebody else or a group of people to do things, to try and manage their time, to try and look for all the marginal gains that might improve their performance, particularly try to keep it more consistent and sustainable, so you don't have these ups and downs. Elite athletes are easier to coach. They eat well, they drink well, they exercise, they're committed. They don't necessarily adopt some of the bad habits we do. But they also have very high expectations that whatever they're doing needs to provide results. So it's a little bit easier to coach them in certain areas, but it's also, you need to know what you're doing. And it sometimes can get a bit complex. It's very intrusive. Sleeping, you know, when you mention sleep to anybody, their perception is get your 8 hours and I'll see you tomorrow. It's normally done in the bedroom. It's so inevitably when you're investigating the world of sleep, it can be quite personal. It's so I think you can only really get away with it being anybody who focuses on being a sleep coach or personal coach, if there's a lot of trust and honesty involved around that process, to be able to, you know, dig deep into somebody's life and go, there it is, that's the one we were looking for. Because when anybody is talking to you or filling out questionnaires or profile things online, they never really tell you the truth. And particularly in the sleep area, you know, there's lots of, let's just call it private things that go on. And so they don't really want you to come into that particular space. So unlike all the other health pillars, they're mental and physical activities that you do while you're awake and out and about. But sleep is something that happens inside this bedroom for some. And so it's not easy to get access to that kind of world. So I suppose that's why I'm still a little bit unique in some respects, because you need to build up a number of years of complete trust and honesty that you're not going to Instagram that or tweet that, because we talk about some pretty private stuff sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the definition of a great coaching relationship, isn't it? That there is that trust and there's that rapport between you, that you can have those open, transparent conversations. And so can I share with you how I came across your book? Because I was actually at my wit's end, really struggling with my own perimenopause. I would wake up at literally 2 minutes to 2 every single night.
Right.
Every night for 5 years. It didn't matter how much fluid I restricted. It didn't matter when I ate. It didn't matter what I sort of seemed to do. I was always just be awake, like literally a light bulb going on. And I would consider myself not to have been someone who struggled with sleep. However, it got to a stage where it was really starting to impact my day. Like, you know, I'd get that 4 o'clock slump and I'd just be feeling useless. Would struggle to get going in the morning, would quite happily have stayed in bed when I did eventually fall back to sleep. I didn't know it back then, but those were classic perimenopausal symptoms that I was experiencing. And as you do, you sort of look for anything that's going to help you. And I remembered seeing your book online. I must have been doing an Amazon search or something, or a Google search, and your book came up, and I thought, right, that's the one. And I ordered it. And as you can see, I mean, mine is tabbed up, it's marked up, because I use it every single week. I really, really do, to help women who equally struggle. So your book is so readable. It's so easy to follow. It's so interesting and engaging, and you could have it done probably over a couple of days. But the thing that I've taken from it is the toolkit that it gave me to help resolve my sleep, which was the R90 sleep method. So could you tell us a little bit Tell us a bit about that and how you came to create that.
Wow. How long have you got? I think it was, like I said, I because I was an international sales marketing director for Sunderland, we produced sleeping products and everything else, but we were a leading brand. So I was always looking to sort of innovate and change and stuff like that. So I'd worked around a lot of people, and I realized that even the professors of sleep that I worked alongside and in and around, they didn't have a definitive approach. So they could talk about sleep all day long, how important it is, but they couldn't give me any sort of like, well, how would a nurse do it? Or how would a footballer do it? Or how would a parent do it? So there was a number of little things that are kind of intrigued me, One was our relationship with circadian rhythms, the sun going around the planet, and light and dark and blue light and serotonin, melatonin, and 24-hour cycles, nothing to do with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it was just a thing, we're humans with that little organ in our head called the brain, bodily functions. And like everything else on the planet, we should be synchronized with it. But humans tend to create things that desynchronize them. So I thought, nobody's educating anybody in that area. I mean, I mentioned circadian rhythms, in a football training ground, and they'll just look at me as if I'm talking sci-fi. But then when you actually just, a few sentences later, and they get it, understand, sunrise, midday, sunset. Then there was little things like owls and larks, chronotypes. I knew there were chronotypes. It's a little genetic twist, but it's like, well, hang on a minute. Are we trying to manage that, take advantage of that, or even try to, minimize its effect? Because probably there's more nighttime chronotypes on this planet than there are morning chronotypes, but we all live in a morning chronotype world. Get up and start your day, snoozers for losers and all that sort of stuff. But then just fascinated by the fact that up until, the electric light bulb came along, which was sort of 1930s-ish, Victorian times, whatever, we always slept in what's called a polyphasic manner, which was shorter periods more often, exactly as children come into our world in blocks controlled by the brain. So it's like, okay, so we didn't really start to sleep in one block at night because us humans chose it that way. There was a trigger. So basically you ended up with 7, what I call KSRIs, key recovery indicators. I'd always known inside of a clinic with the professors that some would look at 60 minutes, some would look at 90 minutes as a period of time to go through all the various stages of sleep, light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep. So, 5 90-minute cycles is 7.5 hours. That's your 8 hours, get your 8 hours. It also is the length of a football game, 90 minutes. You can't go the full 90 minutes. You have a little gap in the middle to rehydrate, recalibrate, set yourself for the next bit. So it kind of made sense to take something from the clinical world, change the sort of narrative, the language, make it a little bit more understandable, think about cycles, but then it also creates some rhythm to your day. So you can get your consistent wake time, natural wake time, from your chronotype, from your occupation. You can chop your day up into 90-minute cycles, give you 16 timings. You can then start thinking about 4 phases of the day, sunrise, midday, sunset, evening, night. And you can start to get a little bit more of a rhythm, a little bit more in sync with a couple of things that are never going to change. And that is, you've got a brain with bodily functions. The sun's rolling around our planet. And if you keep moving away from that process, then consequences will come your way. So that's what the R90 technique is about. It's just trying to create better awareness, the myths and misunderstandings, and to give somebody an opportunity just to reflect on how they go about their life and all the outside influences that you've mentioned. Put that together. Don't create routines that are not practical and achievable, but just slide it into your life and suddenly go, that works for me. because you can have 30 minutes late afternoon or 90 minutes midday. You can look at this and look at that. And so suddenly, I think, as you pointed out, your particular journey, there's 17 different languages of books up on my shelf here. So whether it's Arabic or German or Italian, suddenly you realize that, all the sort of menopausal women all over the planet, all struggling with exactly the same things, probably not really finding the answers, I have to say, talking to quite a lot. But the big thing was to be able to sort of get their recovery in a manner that suited them, like you're sleeping up until 2 o'clock. Wake up, be active, don't fight it, don't shout at it, just shift your recovery around in a different way. It is natural, don't be scared to do it. And suddenly, that's the technique I use if there's got 3 ladies racing across the Atlantic in a boat for weeks, single-handed around the world sailors, all sorts of challenges that we can find a way to develop that recovery process. And worrying about sleep is your biggest disruptor. So to try and find a sort of more natural rhythm to your everyday recovery approach, that has probably been the most successful bit for anybody I've coached or talked to, or they've read the book, that I get a response to, is it's helped them more than anything else than they've been trying to do in every other area.
Absolutely. And I can say, that is why I talk about it every week, because sleep is fundamental. We spend a lot of our time doing it. And one of the things that I found most beneficial was in the book, you talk about the stages of sleep, that it takes 90 minutes to go through each of those stages. And then actually the most important one, you describe it as though you're going down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to that last one, which is where you get that really deep restorative, beneficial type of sleep before you then come out into light sleep again. I did sleep training with my daughter when she was a baby, okay, and that was based on 45-minute cycles. I did the Gina Ford method, and it was amazing. And I could always see children that had been woken up partway through a sleep cycle because they were so fractious and going really very, very upset. But for me, and this is one thing that I always did advocate, I think it's about being comfortable with what your chronotype is. I always could do with a nap in the afternoon, even when I was a medical sales rep. Probably shouldn't admit this, but I used to go and have a sandwich in the car after walking around the hospitals, talking to doctors and stuff. And I used to have my sandwich and have literally a half an hour nap. And I used to literally feel amazing when I woke up. And I just be ready to go again. And so I still do that now. But I think what was lovely about in your book, it talks about you don't have to have your eyes shut to have a recovery period. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because sometimes people get very hung up on having your eyes shut. Do we need to do that?
Yeah, because people, like I say, it's trying to find something that's practical for everybody. So you've got napping, snoozers for losers. Principally, napping is a consequence of an undefined approach to sleep. It's the brain trying to catch up. It's like falling asleep behind the wheel of a car on a motorway. Why would you do that? That's nuts. But it's your brain taking advantage of moments in that 24-hour cycle, sound, sensory stuff, and just goes, oh, hello, I'll do it, and microsleep you. So the thing is like not to see it as a sleep cycle during the day. You see it as your moment, your controlled recovery period, your vacant mind space. And, use headphones, use this, use that, visualization, whatever it is. But you have that every day. And what happens then is that the brain starts to get this rhythm, consistent start to your day, little tiny breaks every 90 minutes, little micro CRPs, just looking out of the window for 2 minutes, changes what the brain is thinking about and all the emotions accordingly. Little tiny breaks, 30-minute cycle late afternoon to connect the evening. And the more if you do that every day, your brain will let you know in advance that we've got our little 30-minute cycle. And I think I might put you to sleep. So you start to feel it. So you might sit on a sofa. So if you think about it like that, you can, the graveyard slot in business, straight after lunch, midday, siesta time, you leave the room. You're still awake. but you leave the room. And so it's kind of trying to get into that space that recovery in any 24 hours is not all about being asleep. It's about a lovely journey with your brain to help it all the way through, to be productive, be the best you possibly can. But this balance between mental and physical activities and mental and physical recovery activities, if you get that in a little bit more sync, you don't go slower, you don't waste time, you go faster, you enjoy your evenings better in phase 3. But you also know that when you do present yourself to sleep, like you mentioned, top of the stairs, your brain takes over now. You're not in control of this now. You're in control of everything you've been doing from the point of wake and the start of your day. So when you present yourself to sleep and your brain takes over, what you want it to do is to be as comfortable and happy as possible, to wander you down those stairs, to enjoy those deeper sleep stages, which is only about 20% of it in any period anyway, and go for that nice rolling process of developing those stages. You know, deep sleep, as you know, with your child or children, I can come in your bedroom and play with your hair and you wouldn't even know I was there. But in light sleep, I wouldn't get through your front door. So females tend to be far more sensitive, more aware, more alert than the male counterparts. So it's very easy to get stuck in light sleep because you can hear a child moving in a cot. You know the next bit is they're going to stand up and start screaming, right? So you hear the movement. A male, the child has to get out the cot, get into bed and start smacking them on the face. They don't, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Sadly, I do, Nick. I mean, my husband said he just never heard my daughter, and yet he said all he ever remembered was seeing me bolting out the door. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, well, it's a great point because it makes you reflect that the biggest challenge you're going to have is you're likely to get stuck in light sleep for all the positive reasons. But that's why you have to focus on other recovery periods during the day, like a child does, getting into their formative growth, because that's why the technique works, because having children shouldn't be such an impact. Because if you've been using that sort of technique and polyphasic cycles, then you know you're going to have a child in 9 months. By the time the child comes along, it's an absolute breeze because you're able to recover polyphasically. It's only because parents come out of that, become adults, and then try to encourage their kids to get monophasic sleeping as quick as possible, not for their benefit, it's to create more space for the parents. So it's like all of these little uneducated process. And I think the bit, just to quickly remind everybody, that once you start thinking about cycles and 90-minute cycles, and I'm going for 5 90-minute cycles, which is 7.5 hours, that could be between 11 and 6:30 in the morning, right? Once you do that, you see, you're not sleeping in every cycle and waking up. You're sleeping all the way through, but you know that your brain is going through these periods. So suddenly you start to think the first 90-minute cycle, the second 90-minute cycle. So depending on where this gets slot, what you will experience is you do the first cycle, get a bit of deep sleep. You go through the second cycle, get a bit of deep sleep, because deep sleep only appears between around 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning, right? So once you've gone through your second cycle, the sun is already coming back to wake you up on the planet. So it's still dark. So your third, fourth, and fifth cycle is more about getting ready to wake. The first 2 cycles about revealing the deep sleep. So you suddenly start to think that if I want to make that happen, I've got to do something earlier on in the day. I can't just get to an hour before, 8 hours left, 11 o'clock, 10:30, think about whale noises, century candles, have a bath, whatever. The endless things we do pre-sleep, it's pretty much too late. It's a nice way to end your day maybe, but it's pretty much too late. So you really start to have that big old conversation with your brain. Would you like a consistent start to the day like the sun? Yes, please. Would you like me to give you lots of little breaks every 90 minutes just to reset? And yes, please. Hydrate, appetite, balanced meals. Yes. would you like a nice little break late afternoon, 30 minutes, where we can just recoup and go? And sometimes we'll sleep, sometimes we won't. But that takes the pressure off phase 3. So we're not rushing around trying to get everything done, go to the gym, get the washing done, look after the kids, this, that. And then, oh my God, it's time to go to bed and we've only got 8 hours left. Whoa, no, let's create some space. And then if we do that, I will give you all the recovery I possibly can, Nick, and I will really put these things in place. Give me a bit of rhythm, give me a little bit of pattern, and you're absolutely going to smash it, Nick, if you do that for me during the course of your day. In which case, you stop thinking about how am I going to sleep tonight? How am I going to sleep on Friday or Sunday? Am I going to be feeling okay? Am I going to be... And you just stop thinking about it. It just becomes a natural recovery process every day. Lots of ways to just keep adapting, and you just stop thinking about it. And am I going to sleep well tonight? Well, I'm doing everything in the right way, so probably, I can't do any more than that, can I?
No, and it's so true. It's so true. I mean, and I'll give you an example. I think I could be your model pupil, actually. Having read your book, I'll give you an example. You'd be really impressed with me. So normally, go to bed about 9:30, get up at 6:30. But actually, when I say go to bed, I don't fall asleep before 11, and I've stopped trying to do that because it just doesn't suit me. But okay. I know when I go to bed, I'm always asleep by 11 o'clock, and I wake up like that at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it always happens. So I went out for dinner on Friday night. Mm-hmm. I missed my 11 o'clock slot.
Okay.
So I waited till 12:30.
Did you?
Yeah. I knew you'd be impressed.
That's scary, isn't it? It's sort of one thing, you're going to bed early, but you're not actually falling asleep till 11 o'clock. So what are you doing that for? Because that's just messing with everything, isn't it?
Yes.
And then the pressure. And then just like, oh no, it's 11:15. I've been out, brush my teeth, get up, get the pajamas on, get into bed. And you just go, no, create a bit of space. Your brain wants to, and just let it happen. It works. There you go.
Does, and I woke up refreshed on Saturday morning, and I did feel a bit tired on Saturday. So I did sit down and I just took that quiet time, like you described. And I honestly think, I really think it should be taught in schools. I really think young people would benefit so much. I speak to a lot of people in my capacity as a mental health first aider, and sleep, tell me what your thoughts are about sleep apps and things like that. I mean, and generally the use of mobile phones in our young people today. I mean, do you think sleep's going to get worse before it gets better? What do you think?
Well, I think there's quite a number of, there's at least a couple of pretty serious challenges we've been facing in recent years and months. So you'd have to say that the modern world is always going to create challenges for us. So I think if you don't start that process, it is going to get worse. I think we should be the healthiest, most knowledged human populations that have been on this planet, but it doesn't sound like it a lot these days in all sorts of areas. So I think we do have to sort of reflect on, everything that we're doing, why we're doing it, and keep a little bit more perspective on where we are just human beings at the end of the day, not just human beings, but we need to be careful. We need to be a little bit more considered how we approach it. So I think in general terms, technology is here. I can't tell all my young athletes to switch their phones off and get rid of it. That's nuts. The whole is just, there is a thing, right? And it's sort of, how can we help manage that process? Because we're all in it. I don't really know how to. It's really exciting. It's amazing technology, but it's also flipping scary. So finding our pathway through this stuff is our biggest challenge. But I think getting into the schools and getting that education, because there's always a danger of, it's not necessarily fake news, but it is a bit myth orientated. And so I hear parents and teachers and whatever it is telling the children to shut their tech down because blue light's bad for them and they're not going to sleep well. But they haven't had the conversation yet about how wonderful blue light is. Then they're going, well, wear these blue blocker glasses that have been created because somebody's telling everybody to stop looking at their tech because of blue light. So somebody designs blue blocker glasses to protect the blue light. When actually, isn't it more about the overload of tech in every day rather than just giving them something to maybe do it more? So I think as long as we get in there, and, you know, I've done it on a number of occasions with groups of young athletes and even in schools, you know, where people have invited, you mentioned it, I've been to a lot of universities, a lot of schools, even primary schools. It's normally generated by maybe the head is like a serial cyclist and has read about me somewhere and goes, I'm going to get you in because the kids will love you and give me an opportunity to change their behavior. But very, very quickly, you know, you start to hear these sort of things. And invariably what happens is other types of behavior starts to be created that's counterproductive. And that's the bad thing. So kids and parents start to, you know, they hear about that and they start to adopt it because everything's so easy at your fingertips. So I see a lot of addictive behavior going on, accessing all sorts of things, whether it's interventions, devices. You know, if you've got a tracker, whether it's a Fitbit or something, or more advanced, you're very aware of collecting data. We're very aware of putting data into apps in other areas of our lives. But there's already a medical term for the increased anxiety and stress that is created by looking at sleep data called orthosomnia. Because you wake up in the morning, you're looking at your data on your app, your device, wherever you've got, and it tells you that you've got X amount of hours and X amount of awakenings and this amount of deep sleep and all that sort of stuff. And that's how you start your day going. It's never been a performance criteria. Obviously, the way we're talking, it does affect us big time, but it doesn't stop you taking the kids to school. It doesn't stop you going to work or flying a plane or being a nurse. So suddenly you're looking at stuff and go, well, what do I do with that? Because I was asleep. Is it something I did during the day? Is it something I did yesterday that's creating that data? Also, they are very good. They're getting really good, really good, really good. But they're never going to get as accurate as taking the brainwave patterns off the frontal lobe of your brain, which is what happens when you're in a clinic. And that's really the only way you know where you are in sleep. Everything else is a little bit of a guess. It's putting things together like movement, body temperature, heart rate, and it's sort of having a little bit of a guess. But the amount of people now who contact me and go, Nick, I'm only getting, 2.5% deep sleep. Where are you getting that from? Well, my ring or my device tells me I'm doing that. Oh, okay. So doesn't it tell you how to increase that deep sleep to 10% or 15%? Sleep's not one of those things. It's so many variables. It is a process that you release yourself and your brain takes over, and everything that you're doing wants to be able to create that. So my thought process with the apps is they need to be very carefully used. You need to certainly have read my book 16 times over, front to backwards, never mind Matthew Walker's book or anybody else's book, to really get a strong, and you need to start monitoring your sleep over a long period of time, through the seasons, through being at work, not being at work, through illness, through eating carbs one day and eating proteins the next, or sometimes you're fasting, or you need to gather a lot of data that then gives you some sort of benchmark as to that's what normally the thing says when I do this. And if I change that, that changes that. And until you get to that point, it just creates more anxiety and stress. I'm not doing it right, but I feel great.
That's so true. I didn't know it was called that. orthosomnia. I'm going to make sure we mention that. And that is true, actually, because we're on that heightened alertness, aren't we? We want things to be better. So we literally land on the first thing, but we do need that consistency, like you say, and everyone is unique, aren't they, with their sleep pattern, and we probably just don't know enough. But that's what I like about the R90 sleep method, and the recovery element of it is actually you should take it with you, can't you? It doesn't matter where you go, you can take those principles with you. And I just wanted to ask you, so one of the things is you've actually produced products, haven't you, to help athletes so that, you know, when they travel, because I mean, it's notorious that whenever you go somewhere, whenever I used to travel as a rep and stay in a hotel overnight, I'd sleep terribly the first night. You know, and there's all sorts of theories around, you're on high alert, you know, you're waiting because there's a potential threat coming in, but you developed products to help with that. I mean, is there anything that we can do when we are going away, staying somewhere else, to improve the quality of our sleep, or how we may get into sleep when we're away from our normal surroundings? Is there anything that you can tell us?
Yeah, I think with inside that technique that you keep promoting,
which I love it. I think it's brilliant.
They'll all think that I'm paying you, but I'm
no,
not.
You're not.
Within that R90 technique, there's these 7 KSRIs. So there's circadian rhythms, tapping in your browser, chronotype, manage that, sleeping cycles, pre and post, concentrate on post, not pre, how you start your day. There's a balance between mental and physical activities and mental and physical recovery. Number 6 is environment. Now, I coach people to sleep anywhere, anytime, any place, on anything, because that's what we do as humans. Just look at us all over this planet. We don't all sleep in beautiful bedrooms with aircon and blackout blinds and all sorts of stuff. You know, we're pretty much designed to curl up anywhere and crack on, right? So that is very much about bringing the outside in. Wherever you find yourself, choose to sleep, have to sleep, whatever that is always think outside in. Not all the cold and the drama of the outside, but it's very much that familiarization with whether you like going camping or being outdoors or not. I'm sure you will be able to agree with me that if you go on holiday into the mountains, whatever it is, by the rivers, whatever it is, you're outside camping or even in your caravan, whatever it is, suddenly, very quickly, you start your day a little bit more orientated to sunrise. You've only got a bit of polythene and some zips. You've got no fancy mattress on the floor, you know, and it's sort of like you sort of wake up and eat, fuel up, enjoy the first part of the day, stop and have a little break and fuel up. All the visualization, the nature and the light, really importantly. And then you get to the end and make the advantage of the rest of the day, and then the sun goes down, make a fire, and off you go. So suddenly you become more synchronized. So when it becomes about whatever your bedroom is, all I would say is imagine taking everything out in your head and then start to put things back that you would definitely think is going to help you go to the bottom of those stairs, enjoy some deep sleep with your brain. And as soon as you start thinking, I'm going to take another human into there, there's a barrier, right? They can have a different chronotype to you. They can be a different size and weight to you. They can be a different gender to you. And you suddenly think, well, we're both going to curl up in that bed and try to sleep. You know, I'd rather sleep on my own, sort of thing. And then you think, is the noise outside and there's traffic, street lights outside, and I've got tech in my thing and I've got stimulus. And you start to go, well, hang on a minute. You don't have all that in your tent, you know? And so it's kind of like, that's one thing. When it comes to number 7, which is interventions and products, most people, when they start to struggle with recovery, they dive into isolated interventions. And that could be sleeping tablets, supplements, eye masks, sound, everything, including I'll get a new mattress because apparently, you know, they keep telling me online that it'll get me a perfect night's sleep. And I can try it for 300 nights and all this sort of stuff. You just go, hang on a minute. How did you buy anything else in your life that makes such high profile statements like that? when it's actually one mattress for everybody. So it's kind of like, that doesn't really make sense, but that's where you jump in. So what I would do is, like you say, the R90 technique enables you to sleep anywhere, recover anywhere, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And when you do find yourself in an environment, all it is about familiarization. So all that happened was, it started with, you know, if your partner wears a certain perfume or deodorant or, you know, washing powder or gel, and there's a smell that relates to something that's very familiar, then we create those smells in the hotel room. Maybe there's a little thing about you that you've got a little comfort blanket, you know, that ragged old teddy bear that started out at life, where you'd cuddle it all night long. And if your child loses, I mean, at least 3 grandchildren have got little Winnie the Pooh thingies. And if you don't take that in the car, it's all over. Right? So, but even if you're 25, 26, why aren't you taking that with you? Because it creates familiarization. It's like sucking the thumb. It's like those things. And just getting an athlete to sit down with their partner and stuff, and maybe they're reading bedtime stories to their kids in the bedroom. The light is dim, the kids are responding, you know, read that again, mommy, read that again, daddy. And just put that on your device. So you're sat somewhere, other side of the world, wherever it may, or just up the road in a hotel, knowing the fact that the first 48 hours in any hotel, your recovery is going to be reduced by up to 40%. Nothing you can do about it. What you want to do is to help you and your brain be happy as possible. And that's not about the bed that's in the hotel room. It's not about where the hotel room is. It's nothing like that. It's creating that wonderful familiarization inside that space, that sort of switch that on, stick your AirPods in, and just listen to you reading bedtime stories to your kids, and you're on the other side of the world in a hotel or bubble in Beijing, and it just shifts things. So it's more to do with following that process, that we would identify all the little things that make you a mantha, all the little things that put that little smile on your face, or that, you know, all the little smells and the sensory and the noises, and we put those together in a kit, basically. Mm. And a mattress and a duvet and a pillow and a smell. And we take that with us, not because it's about high performance bedding products, it's because it created that wonderful familiarization that protected any athlete when they were sleeping in a different place. But some of that can be, you know, just very, very simple. You don't have to be taking travel sleep kits with you to every hotel. But I think everybody would understand, listening to this, there are little things. There are lovely little things that really help us go, oh, yeah. Smells, things like that. And you can stick them in your bag. And so that's why CRPs and napping, when we were talking before about, it's not about going to sleep. But if I've just got, you know, smell, headphones, eye masks, sit in the chair, drift off, just give up, try to think about nothing, and my brain might microsleep me. You know, so it's tiny little things that, you know, I was talking to, well, I wasn't actually talking, but somebody said, are these CRP things? I haven't got time to do that, and I don't have the space to do that. I can't sleep in the office. I can't, you know, I can't do that. And so, because you haven't changed your mindset yet. Because I just had a 5-minute CRP while you were talking. You just thought I was a good listener, right? And it's sort of, really? I said, yeah. Come on, we need to redefine recovery. We need to get into that space, because it's an amazing tool, and sleep is always the main focus of that. And you know, I can happily say that you're promoting the book and the contents of it so avidly, but it's only because it works.
It
works.
It does work, and people know that I don't advocate things unless they work, and so I think it is I think it's the seminal book on sleep. I don't have any other books on sleep because, quite frankly, none of those things have worked for me, and so that's why.
Hey, maybe we should collaborate and write a book together about sleeper pause.
You're on.
or menopause, because they don't suffer with it, do they, Ben?
No,
well, they don't
exactly.
Anyway.
exactly. But I do agree with absolutely everything you've said. And even, I mean, the standing joke in my house is if I say I'm going to meditate, they all know what that means. That usually means a micro nap of some description, but it's because my body is always ready for it. And I do celebrate that, and I make no apology, and I do love that feeling of then coming.
Oh, but, to sort of interrupt you and jump in, it's sort of like, once maybe initially you might get some from your friends, not you personally, but when you start to think like this, you think, well, my friends, what I'm going to tell them. I was coaching somebody 2 days ago, it was exactly the same. They were kind of a little bit scared to start doing things like that because it sounded like they were failing in other areas, or it's losers for losers. But suddenly, all the people who mean something to you, whether it's colleagues at work or your children and your partner, suddenly they go, have you had your nap today? And you go, I'm doing it at 4:30. Good, because we'll have a good evening. Because we'll do that, because we'll do that. And suddenly they start to see that how important it is to have those things in place. And I think the bit that's probably, certainly in sport, our endeavour is to make sleep the number one health pillar, not second or third. Because if you get that recovery process in, everything else you do will be not diminished by not putting the recovery at the start. So it doesn't matter what you eat, what you drink, how you exercise, whatever you're trying to do will be diminished if you're always struggling to gain that level of recovery. And I think that's why in that sort of menopausal space, everything gets exaggerated far more than probably it should be, or shouldn't be, or whatever it might be, but it gets extremely exaggerated if you're absolutely wired by not getting any recovery at all.
I agree, and yes, I think we should write a book, because I think there's so many people, businesses right now also need to pay attention to what you just said, because it's not okay to have back-to-back Zoom calls all day. People need that time to step away. So again, people always ask me the books that I'm promoting. Here's Nick's book, Sleep. Does what it says on the tin. I love that as well. The power down, standby, put yourself in standby mode. But Nick, it has been an absolute joy talking to you. I could talk to you for hours. I'm such a big fan of yours. So tell people, I know people will want to get in touch. They want to buy the book, which is widely available. But how can people get in touch with you and follow you, Nick? Where can they reach you?
Well, the best thing to do is get in touch with you, and you'll point them in the right direction. But it's nick@sportsleepcoach.com. So sportsleepcoach.com. Nick at. If you put Nick Littlehales in your browser, unfortunately, you'll find me somewhere. On the website, we've got an Audible course you can listen to. Obviously, you can access the book through to other links, but Amazon and everywhere else. And lots of free content on the site, lots of blogs, lots of podcasts like this. So you can really dive in and raise your awareness in a very sort of low cost, easy access way. And if that inspired you to sort of think I could go to another level, then you can actually book one-to-one coaching sessions with me. But I have to say, however that might sound scary, it's a one-off payment. It's a 60-minute session, and you'll have something in your back pocket for the rest of your life. You don't have to keep going back to the personal trainer or anything like that. It's just once you've got it, haven't you, Emma?
Oh, completely.
You can tackle anything that's going,
You
And
can.
I give everybody there's things that go on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. But I would give everybody the confidence. Like I said, there's 17 books up here.
Wow.
Now, if in China, the book has just been republished after 5 years, a new contract, and they're expecting to sell millions.
Yeah.
Japan, there is a medical team who are putting the R90 technique into the population of Japan, trying to change their mindset about recovery, about sleep, because all the cultures have it. So I think for everybody listening to this, it's not UK centric, it's not Nottingham centric, or wherever you're calling from today. It's not about this bit and that bit. Pretty much every human being on this planet right now, even before C19, even before recent events, was just finding it increasingly difficult to manage their recovery and the challenges of life. But it's not just in one part of the world, it's all over the place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we bring our interview to a close, sleep doesn't start when you put your gym jams on, it starts when you wake up. Your approach
when you take them off.
Yeah, when you take them off in the morning, before you even get out of bed, it's about actually thinking about those 90-minute segments in your day and what you can do to contribute to your recovery, because we all need that. So thank you so much, Nick, for being part of my interview. I know people are going to absolutely love this and they'll be in touch with you. But for now, thank you very much for being my guest.
No problem. One little present for you.
Yes, please.
Tell everybody to have a bit of fun, particularly if you've got kids, and just go onto an app store and look for what's called a free Lux light meter, LUX.
Yeah.
If you're on iOS, it'll be a free Lux light meter. If you're on Android, there'll be this one, and it'll just put a little dial like that, maybe in a digital form.
Yeah.
And what it's using is the camera on my phone to measure the amount of light around me. Right? Okay. So you mentioned before about blue light's bad for you, shut your tech down, da, 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 da. We talk about sunrise, midday, and sunset, the wonderful daylight being outside, and inside that daylight is blue light, right? Mm. Now, what it does is start to get you some relationship with light, because the blue light in daylight is your trigger for serotonin. It makes you happy. It makes you everything. It makes everything function, and that is generated by light into a little gland in here, da, 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 right?
Yes.
So you get one of those, and where I'm sitting right now, it's telling me it's about 112 lux. I'm in front of the laptop. The room's not that dark, is it? There's lights on up there, which are pretty useless because they don't produce enough strength. I've got a little lamp in the corner there. That's a seasonal lamp.
Yeah.
That's producing 10,000 lux. So it's giving me a little boost because I'm not outside. If I go by the window, it moves from 112 lux just by the window, arm's length away.
Yeah.
Right? It's nearly 4,000 lux. If I step outside, it could be 80,000 lux in the middle of the day. So within a meter of where I'm sat, the difference between the light can be 112 lux to maybe 80,000 lux. And that is the difference between me being stuck in a melatonin world, which is suppressing everything, or me being in an active world. And that, for any menopausal sufferer, is you getting your light exposure, whether you're inside or outside, get a better balance for around an average of 1,000 lux in every hour. That will give you about an hour average of 10,000 lux, sunrise, midday, sunset. That fits in with the knowledge that we have that human beings outside in 80,000 lux, or, while the sun is there, our average exposure would be around 10,000 lux. So you get a little bit more synchronized, because if I sit here talking to you all morning in 112 lux, it means I'm trying to be active, being positive and successful with you. So I'm doing stuff, aren't I? But all the time, my brain is fighting this process because it's actually being told to suppress because of the wrong level of hormone called melatonin in my brain. And if I just get by that window for 2 minutes, or I just pop a lamp on, or I just step outside every 90 minutes, that little CRP, suddenly I'm keeping everything balanced. And then when I want to go to sleep tonight, my brain will be totally happy. So if you get lots of people listening to this asking you loads of questions, if you wanted to collate that and have a Q&A with me on another date, specific to stuff, so we don't wander off about all sorts of stuff. But if that was of any interest to you, I'm happy for you, because I've found the conversation interesting today, and you're promoting my book like mad. So if you wanted to do that or not, it's up to you. But
I would love to do that. I would love to that. So anyone watching, get that Lux app, meter, light, and let's start seeing what it's like, because that is fascinating. That's just blown my mind.
Yeah, if you walk around your house, right, with this little app on your phone, 3 lux light meter, you'll start wandering around going 100 lux, 80 lux in the bathroom, switch the lights on, you know, in your children's bedrooms, in the kitchen. And then tomorrow, you know, maybe it's a sunny day, you start wandering around going, and I don't even want to know the science behind this.
No, I'm just going to get outside. I'm just going to get outside.
I just know that I can't be outside all the time. That doesn't work. But I tell you what, if I've got a hydration bottle on my desk, only half fill it. Why? Because it's quicker to drink it. And then I have to go to the window in the kitchen to fill it up again. It's a 2-minute CRP, but I'm getting a massive hit of 5,000 lux.
I love that.
Do you know what I mean?
I love that. And I think people will love that. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Nick. It's absolutely fantastic. And we'll definitely be in touch. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you again.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.